Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. You come home from a busy day at work or school or just a busy day out. You're physically tired, you're hungry, you're mentally wired, your emotions are wound up. What does an evening like that look like for you? We all have good times when making good, healthy decisions is easy and we're excited about being healthy. But we all have these times as well where being healthy is still important, but our decision making capabilities are not as sharp when there's so much going on with us. Right? Do I have things in place in a situation like that? That yes, I need to unwind and relax, but do I have something in place that allows me to say no? This is not the way that I'm going to unwind and relax. Maybe binge watching something or acting out. Yes, I'm hungry. I need to nourish myself. But do I have things in place that help me to say, no, this is not the way that I'm going to nourish myself with something that's not going to make me feel better? Yes, I need to connect with others, but do I have things in place that protect me from ending up spending a very late night connecting with others and taking phone calls and things like that in a way that takes away from my ability to actually recharge and rest? What we're talking about is boundaries. And this was a topic of our most recent office hour in the Purify Your Gaze community. And I'd like to share with you 4 benefits of boundaries in this brief reflection as you think about how to implement this important skill in your life. The first benefit is that boundaries express our priorities. If there's something important in my life, then there must be something that I've set in place to protect it, to make sure that it doesn't get bombarded from all the different demands that you are going to experience in your life. Demands we place on ourselves, demands other place on us. Sometimes it just comes from within. I have this great idea and I get excited about it, and I might sacrifice something, and I might scratch my head and say, hold on, that thing that I was focused on, that thing that I had placed importance on, why did I just throw it out of the water? What caused me to sacrifice? Sometimes it happens. I act out, and I'm like, where did that come from? How did that happen? I was doing so well. So placing things that protect the things that are important in our life are an expression that this is important. The second benefit of boundaries is that they make decision making easier. Just think about that night. It's very difficult in the midst of not thinking clearly, being exhausted, just wanting to feel better, just wanting to feel nourished, right? In the midst of that, to make good and healthy decisions. So if I've decided ahead of time that this is something I'm going to say no to, then I know that it's something that I'm going to say no to. And in fact, as I practice saying no, eventually that habit of I know that I'm going to want this, and I know ahead of time that I'm going to say no to it. The habit of that eventually becomes ingrained and allows our mind to have a new pathway towards feeling fulfilled. That just that act of abstaining, of saying no, and choosing something else to do becomes rewarding in and of itself. It takes practice. I'm not saying it's easy, but it does become rewarding in and of itself that our habits begin to change. Benefit number 3 of boundaries is that they help us to trust ourselves. Many of us, often go out of our way to help others. We want others to feel like they can count on us. When we've made a promise to others, we want to keep that promise, and we don't want to break it. Question worth asking is, when's the last time I made a promise to myself, and I showed myself that I would keep it, that I can trust myself, that I can count on myself? See, for so many of us, that self-trust has been broken, and boundaries can help us reestablish that. Even if it's something small, even if it's something simple, even if it's something I'm not sure I need it. I remember at one point considering a boundary for myself just to put media away at 7:30 at night. And my first time thinking about that, I was like, well, is that necessary? And what am I going to do after that? There's so many things that I do in my media. What am I going to do after that? How am I going to end my night? So I wasn't sure about it. But just the act of saying, this is something I'm going to abstain from. Hey, let me give myself a week. this commitment and let me show to myself that I can actually keep it. Because maybe there's some benefit in here. Maybe there's something I can gain out of it. Let me show myself that I can make a commitment and that I can keep it out of a sense of care, not deprivation, but out of a sense that I matter. That allows us to regain trust in ourselves, and that's so important to building ourselves back up, especially if we've been broken down by unwanted habits and addiction. And the final benefit of boundaries that I'd like to share is that they set us free. They set us free. And this is important to consider, right? In the midst of recovery and trying to remove a habit from one's life, an unwanted habit from one's life that has the illusion of giving us a sense of control, has the illusion of giving us a sense of freedom. Maybe we feel constricted by our work expectations, by our family expectations, and this is an escape that we have in our lives that gives us illusion of freedom. But it's saying no to something that's unhealthy to me that actually gives me freedom. That's what happens. I know that I need to say no. I don't know what I'm going to do after I say no, but I know that I need to draw a line here and not cross that line. When we do that and we practice that, oftentimes we feel an emptiness and we experience an emptiness. Right? It's like, what do I do now? But that's the beautiful thing. Allow that emptiness to be there for some period of time. Allow that pain and difficulty and sit with it for some period of time. I know it's hard. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and reward you and accept that from you. But if we live with it for a little bit, and we start to consider different options. We start to consider different ways to take care of ourselves and soothe ourselves. And we start to open up to things that maybe we had abandoned a long time ago. But they're things that we love, things that are important to us, that we can start to reinstate in our lives. And that's an experience of freedom that when you taste it, you're going to want it more and more and more. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us and accepts from us. I pray that these things to consider are helpful and important. I didn't share many specific examples of what boundaries look like. In fact, when I asked members in the office hour, they listed examples. Setting aside media, putting a limit to video games, having some boundaries surrounding food, and things of that nature. There are many examples. But what I'd like to emphasize here is that when I ask members to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 of how well they were maintaining boundaries that they had identified in their life in the past month. That's where the insight comes in, and I would ask you to also rate yourself on that aspect. Right? And that's where many of us, we have some things that we know would be helpful. Maybe you have some things that you know would be helpful, some things that we should be saying no to. But maintaining that and actually saying, yes, I was successful at abstaining from that. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. And that's where maybe getting some accountability can help in that. And definitely making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help in that. Making repeated dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to maintain the boundaries and the limits that we know can help us, and also to help us find boundaries that maybe we're not aware of. If we instate them, we'll experience more freedom. Barakallahu fikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.